Hey, Jason here. Welcome back to another video here on my channel. And in today's video, we're going to be ranking every Fear Factory album from the industrial metal band Fear Factory. So, without further ado, let's actually get into the video. And let's start talking about every Fear Factory album. And before we actually get into the albums, I'm actually going to start doing a new thing that I might do for future album rankings. Is I'm going to put chapters where I talk about each album, and I'll have chapters in the videos. Same rules apply. No EPs or anything like that. Just the 10 studio albums. And the same rules when it comes to the tier list. Awesome tier, good tier, mid tier, or bad tier. So let's actually get into the video. And so how I got into the band, I got into Fear Factory, I don't even remember. It was like, it must have been like 2019, 2020. Well, I think one of the first songs I heard was Lynchpin, and then one of the other songs I heard was Shock. And then I just was hooked after that. And then I think the first album I actually checked out by them was, we'll talk about it more, but I think the first album I actually listened to was Demanufacture. And I've been in love with the band ever since. So, let's actually get into the ranking. Okay. Now, I said just the 10 studio albums, which I'm going to talk about their debut album, their official debut album, Soul of a New Machine. But first, I want to talk about this album just because, and was their actual debut album that was released in 2002, but it was recorded in like 1990, 1991, and it's called Concrete. It's an alright album. Nothing real. I'm not gonna rank it. I'm not gonna put it on the actual tier list with all the other albums, but I'll just talk about it. It was alright. I listened to it. A lot of like Godflesh influence, a lot of Napalm Death kind of influence. Sounds like a regular death metal album with some clean vocals added on to everything, which Burnt Sea Bell was actually probably one of the first, I wouldn't say one of the first, like, he wasn't the first person to be doing that, or what they call, quote-unquote, good cop, bad cop vocals, but he was one of the first people to do it to that extreme style of music, I guess if you want to say that. You didn't really see metal bands doing that. You had one, or you had the other. You didn't have both. But I think Fear Factory was one of the bands that influenced a lot of the bands in the 90s, a lot of the new metal bands that came around, and a lot of the deathcore, or not deathcore, but like metalcore, and some maybe of the deathcore bands as well, and also a lot of the melodic death metal bands. So I feel like Fear Factory is one of those bands that kind of defined what some of the elements of how metal sounds today, especially when it comes to that aspect. So yeah, Concrete, I'm not going to really say any more about it. Some pretty good tracks. Some of the tracks were re-recorded for Soul of a New Machine, and there were some tracks like Piss Christ, which would appear later on Demanufacture. So let's actually talk about the actual albums. Okay, so Soul of a New Machine, released in 1992. And this album to me, I like the production. It's pretty good. Fear Factory, in my opinion, hasn't really made a bad album. There are mid albums, which I'll talk about in my opinion. but they haven't really made a bad album, and I don't mind a lot of the stuff on this album, or I don't mind some of the stuff. Like, tracks that really stand out to me is the first track, Martyr, Lifeline, Scapegoat, a track that I really like, that people don't really mention, a more, like, thrashy, I guess, sounding jam is Crash Test. I actually I like that track. Suffrage is a really good, track in the back half of the album. It's like a Napalm Death, sounding track. You also see a version of that on Concrete as well. But with this album, I'm going to probably put it in the good tier. Or, nah. I don't know if it deserves that. I'm going to put it in mid, but there are albums that are going to go below it. So, yeah. Soul of a New Machine. Okay, next we have Demanufacture, which was released in 1995. And, like I said before, this was the album that I originally got into Fear Factory with. Songs are great. Everything is great. We have the title track, Demanufacture, which is just a fucking banger. We have Self-Bias Resistor, which is a fucking peak track too. Dude, that was one of the first Fear Factory songs I ever listened to. We have Zero Signal, Hunter Killer, which is obviously a Terminator reference, which that's what a lot of this album's theme is, kind of based on. We have Piss Christ. Dude, and then the final track, A Therapy for Pain, which is the 9-minute closer to the album. With I just like Bert's clean vocals on that track, and how it's not really a heavy track. It has like these synths, and then at the end you get this just atmospheric mess, which will be kind of the pinnacle, or which will be kind of the style that Fear Factory will kind of go for now on to pretty much end their albums, which, I'll talk about later. But Demanufacture, oh my gosh, this is such a fucking great album. Great album. It's definitely going in awesome tier, but should I put it at the top? Or do you think there's maybe... should I put the next one at the top? I'm trying to think. I think this one deserves the top. But the next one I'm going to talk about is pretty fucking close. And speaking of, Obsolete, released in 1998. Dude, what a damn good album as well. You could see that Fear Factory pretty much, to this point, they've established the whole, clean scening thing, with the screaming. There's not really that much death metal vocals. The only records that we got death metal vocals on were, the only record that we got death metal vocals on was, Soul of a New Machine. But the vocal style has changed up to that point. We have the more clean singing stuff, but I feel like with this record, with Obsolete, they pretty much made Demanufacture, or they pretty much made what was great and awesome about Demanufacture, and just made it good. Now, this album is more technical, I guess. Well, it has like it has like more industrial elements. It has more of that, and it's definitely more technical. But dude, Shock, fucking awesome track. Like, That was one of the first Fear Factory songs I listened to, too. Dude, the title track, Obsolete. Obsolete. Dude, it's such a good track. It's such a banger. Especially the intro with the spoken word vocals. About talking about how or machine is destroying humanity because humanity is now obsolete. Dude, fucking great track. And this album actually has to, this album is what started, well, probably like Demanufacture, but, Demanufacture, if you want to say that Demanufacture is where Fear Factory found their sound, Obsolete is where Fear Factory is where Fear Factory found their themes that will be that they will be addressing about in the rest or in most of the rest of these albums. Themes about there's themes about the machine, about the industry, about human civilization coming to collapse because of technology and because of the machines taking over. So Fear Factory's lyrics and like their themes literally, it's brought up a lot of questions, especially in this day and age with AI like coming on the rise and machines and how they might evolve. Especially the later albums, just really brought up a lot of questions for me to ask, for me to really think about. But another track I just wanted to mention was High Tech Hate. Another fucking peak track. This album is just all around just good. It's just all around good. And the closing track, Timelessness. It's not one of my favorite album closers, but the rest of the album is good. And then Freedom or Fire. A deep cut, but reminds you a lot of what you would hear on Demanufacture. And then I forgot to mention, with the title track, they kind of went with that, with the drumming, with that, like, Meshuggah sort of, like, intro. Like, that track, or, like, this whole album, pretty much, is probably some of the most technical that Fear Factory has gotten. And, yes, I'm not, like, Fear Factory is not the most technical band in the world, I would not say. Like, there is way more technical stuff out there, which I might do a video on another band, it gets even way more technical, but for Fear Factory, I feel like that, in my opinion, that this album is probably the most musically technical album that they've done, and fitting in the industrial elements into it. But dude, there's not enough I can say about this album. It is fucking awesome, but I feel like Demanufacture still tops it, just because I don't really know how to feel about, like, there's a couple tracks that, I don't know, like, every track is good, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Demanufacture, like, still does some things a lot better, but this album is still great all around. And next, we're going to talk about Digimortal, released in 2001. Okay. Now, I've heard people that hate this album, and I've heard about people that kind of like this album. It's not like a pick that I would say, oh, this is the best fucking album, but I don't hate it. There's some good stuff on here. Like Linchpin. Like I told you, Linchpin was one of the first Fear Factory tracks I ever listened to. What else is on here? another like kind of deep cut with No One, and I also like that rap rock slash new metal kind of track with Back the Fuck Up. That's an alright track. If I ever felt like putting on like a rap rock jam, I'd probably put it on, but not a Fear Factory track. If I'm going to just listen to Fear Factory, it wouldn't be like a track I would listen to, but if I'm going to just put on something and add it to a playlist with a bunch of like new metal jams, I might add it. Oh yeah, and I forgot they kind of went a little new metal with Edge Crusher on Obsolete. That's what I forgot to say, but so you could kind of see where they were going with this album with Digimortal. Oh yeah, and the title track's good as well. No One, I mentioned that. Damaged, Linchpin. No One to me is like a really, really good like deep cut off this album. I just like it a lot. But where do I want to put this? I think it's gonna go in good. But there are definitely albums that are better than that. Or actually, you know what? I'm gonna put it right above Soul of a New Machine in mid. Because there are better albums than that. I was originally gonna put it in low good. But there are better albums than this, because there are some tracks that I just completely forgot about. But it's not as bad as an album that we'll get to. Again, it's not a bad album, but like, yeah. But anyway, next, Archetype, which was released in 2004. And this was the first Fear Factory, because basically Demanufacture, Obsolete, and Digimortal were part of like a little trilogy of like a concept that they were trying to do. So this was that trilogy, but eventually Dino Cazares, the guitarist, left the band, and he wouldn't appear for these two albums, the next two albums. But this is where we get to talk about Archetype. There are some pretty good jams on here, like Slave Labor, Default Judgment, Corporate Cloning. Like, Corporate Cloning is probably one of my favorite tracks from this album. It just reminds me like of that Fear Factory sound, but it also sounds different. Like, this album to me is a more melodic Fear Factory album. But there are also some pretty heavy parts on here. I would say, in my opinion, it's probably a little heavier than Digimortal was, like, overall. But it's not the heaviest Fear Factory album in the world. Acts of God, that's another great jam. Now, the title track for me, I know a lot of people really like it, but I never could really vibe with it. Like, yeah, it's not a bad track. I probably listen to it, but like, I just never really vibed with it. I don't really like the singing. It kind of just seems generic for me when it comes to at least the Archetype, the title track. But this album was kind of supposed to represent, like, I guess, like, Dino leaving the band, in that the machine, when it comes to this, is Dino metaphorically is supposed to represent this machine that was causing destruction and it needs to be removed. So that's what that album represents, is Dino, I guess, being out of the band. So this archetype, or this machine. But when it comes to the music itself, yes, it's good, but still not as great. Still not as great as some albums. I'm gonna put it in good. Yeah, it's gonna go in good. Good. Okay. Next, we have Transgression, which was released in 2005. This was the album that I was talking about. I was watching some rankings because I wanted to do some research of this video and get some people's opinions. Obviously, I have my own opinions, but I always like to see what people say about things. And I was watching videos, I forgot that, I kind of just forgot that this album existed, just because it's so forgettable. Yeah, there's a couple standout tracks, but, I don't remember anything about this album. It's kind of just forgettable to me. I'm trying to think. There's a couple cover songs on here. There was a cover of Gary Newman's Cars on Obsolete, but that was just better than the stuff that's on this album. And I don't even really remember anything that stands out. Maybe Supernova, but this album is just forgettable for me. Don't really like it doesn't really remind me of the Fear Factory sound. And that could just because that Dino isn't in the band now. But this album just does not feel like a Fear Factory album. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad album, but it's low mid. It's almost there. It's just, it does not do it for me. There's really nothing that stands out. So, for Transgression, I'm going to have to go low mid on that one. Because, yeah, there's just nothing that stands out about this. Okay. Next, we have Mechanized, which was released in 2010. Okay. This is where, from this point on, there isn't really a bad Fear Factory album at all. But I don't really know how to feel about this album. It's definitely really, really, really good. But I guess there are definitely some standout moments, but I think there's still 2 albums in my opinion that would top it, and we'll get to those. But this album, for me at least, actually, it feels like the heaviest Fear Factory album in my opinion. Every track is Fear Factory at its peak. We have Fear Campaign. We have deep cuts like Crystallization. We have Controlled Demolition. And I feel like two of my favorite tracks on this album are the title track Mechanized and Industrial Discipline. Dude, Industrial Discipline is just, dude, it's fucking good. It's one of my favorite tracks on this album. But yeah, I don't know. This album for me, it's definitely heavy, and I like a lot of the heavy Fear Factory stuff. But for me, like, it doesn't really feel like there is as much melodic stuff, which makes Fear Factory really good. And that's why I like them, because they know how to do that balance of heaviness and having stuff really heavy, but they know how to also balance it out with melody and being melodic. So with me, this is gonna definitely have to go in high good. High good for me. For Mechanized. Just, I don't think it's good enough to be awesome, but it's definitely gonna have to go in high good for me. Yeah, probably right above wherever I put Archetype. It's gonna have to go there. So, next, we have the Industrialist, which was released in 2012. I don't even know. Why do I find myself, like, just saying every time I list the next album, I'm always, like, saying it weird. It's so weird. Like, I just find myself just saying the title of the album, and I just say it's strange. Anyway, back to the video. The Industrialist, in 2012. Was released in 2012. The title track, The Industrialist, which was an awesome track. Then we have Recharger, which is a banger too. I love Recharger. It's an awesome track. New Messiah, God Eater, has a lot. God Eater has a lot of industrial elements to it. Kind of reminds me of something like High Tech Hate, where basically the beginning riff sounds like something you would hear with like a synth, with a synth kind of building up, but the guitar is playing that notes. Like, High Tech Hate kind of reminds me of the beginning of like a dark techno song. But anyway, back to the Industrialist. God Eater has a lot of those industrial elements, that track does. Then we have Virus of Faith and Disassembled, which Disassembled is a fucking awesome track. And I forgot to mention that this album, it had programmed drums, which eventually the Reindustrialized came out, and that had that didn't have programmed drums, and that the Reindustrialized had a real drummer. But I forgot to mention at that point that when Mechanize came out, that Dino finally returned to the band, and this is the second album with him back in the band. So, back to the album itself. Dude, just great tracks. And then this isn't actually on the original Industrialist, but Human Augmentation, like the final track, is good. Which that one was. But the reason why I bring that up is because on Mechanized, we talked about the album closers and how they were really good. People really love Final Exit, and say that and say how that is their favorite album closer of all time. No. Not in my opinion. I really like Final Exit. Yes, it's a fucking awesome jam, but I think something tops that. And that has to go to, it's not technically even on the official album, but it's on Reindustrialized. But I'm still going to mention it anyways because it's just that fucking good. And that is fucking Enhanced Reality. Fuck. I don't know how to say how fucking good this track is. I don't know how to say how good it is. It's just that good. And I feel like I can relate, like, I can sort of relate to, like, some of the lyrics in this track as well. Even though, like, it's not in the official first release of the Industrialized, it's Industrialist, it's actually in Reindustrialized. Dude, it's still fucking amazing. It's still an awesome track to listen to. I don't know what more to say about it. It's not like a metal like track, but like it's more of just a ballad that kind of sounds more like a pop track, but still, it is great. It is awesome. The sample at the beginning about consciousness or whatever that sample is, fucking awesome. And then the fucking lyrics are just even more awesome as well. And then to lead into the last actual closing track, which is like 9 minutes, human augmentation with just these spoken word vocals on top of them. Like, I don't know how much more I can talk about this. Now, as for the album itself, or as for the album as a whole, this is not really like, I would say it's better than Mechanized, but there are 2 more albums, in my opinion, that top it. Yeah. But, like, if you're talking about, like, the back half, leading into those tracks, those, in my opinion, are the best way that Fear Factory has closed out an album. So, I do gotta give them credit for that. Okay. Fear Factory, or the Industrialist for Fear Factory, has to go in really, really, really high, good, right above Mechanized for me. It's kind of a continuation of what they did with that album, with some more elements added to it. Okay, I've talked about that album enough. Now let's talk about Genexus, which was released in 2015. This is basically a concept album, which basically these albums up to this point are just all basically concept albums. But I watched like the track commentaries of every track to about like what this album is about, and it's pretty interesting of like what this whole album is about. I'm just gonna pretty much give you a summary. It's basically about a model and a how a model called Genexus advances over time, and then how they realize how the model realizes that human emotions and things that make humans human, how the machine must be able to cope with that, and how the machine must go about doing that, and then eventually how the machine realizes that the implications of mortality, and how there is no such thing as immortality, and how it eventually realizes it has an expiration date. That's basically just the gist. I'm not going to get into the whole lore of all the Fear Factory concepts that they have addressed in their lyrics and the albums and everything that everything for that. Like that deserves like a whole nother like video, which I probably won't ever make. But anyway, back to the actual album itself, like with the music. The first track, Autonomous Combat System. What a good track to open up the album. Dude, and then fucking Dielectric, which is the third track, I believe. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. I literally have listened to this track so much. Like, when I'm in the mood, like, this is a track that I have to be, this is a track that when I listen to it, and I'm, like, not really in the mood, it just, I don't know, this track just puts me in a better mood. It just puts me in a better mood. The song is so good with the music, the heavy parts, and then the melodic parts, the heavy verses, the melodic choruses. It is so good. It is so good. It is so awesome. It is awesome. And then we have other tracks like Soul Hacker, Proto Mech, Regenerate, dude, which is another track that just, in my opinion, just makes me feel like getting in a better mood. This album for me, there's just something about this album, in my opinion, that just makes me feel good, I guess, when I listen to it. It doesn't matter if I sit and listen to the whole album or if I just listen to individual tracks. There's just something about this that just makes me feel good. There's just something about this music that just makes me feel good when I hear it. Dude, the fucking tracks are so good. Then the title track, Genexus. And then we got Expiration Date, which I like the whole lyrical concept. I don't really like the song itself. It sounds like Fear Factory, like with the closer albums, like because or with the closer songs on each album, they've gone pop, or they've gone, well, not pop, but like they've gone kind of electronic-ish. Then they kind of, went really fucking experimental with human augmentation and other songs like Therapy for Pain and other just things like that. But with this track, it seemed like they were kind of trying to repeat what they did with Enhanced Reality, but like it was just not as good. But oh yeah, in the Battle for Utopia, Proto Mech is a really great track that I always just go back to. And the synthesizers and the keyboards really add a good addition to this album as well. Makes it sound kind of more electronic. With also keeping the signature Fear Factory sound. Oh my gosh, there is nothing, like, I don't know what else to say about this. It is definitely going in awesome. Now, I don't know, I'm torn between. I've been so torn between if Aggression Continuum should go above it, or if Genexus should go above Aggression Continuum. Hmm. Let's just talk about Aggression Continuum, and we'll see how I feel afterwards. Okay, so yeah, Aggression Continuum was released in 2021. And this was the last album with Burnt C. Bell on vocals. And so they have their new vocalist now. So I'm curious of like what the future whenever they decide to make the next Fear Factory album, I'm curious of what it's gonna sound like with their new vocalist. But Aggression Continuum. What an awesome album. It is so good. There are elements of what Fear Factory was, doing before with Mechanize, the Industrialist, and Genexus, but there are also elements that bring me back to songs or to albums like Demanufacture. And then the whole addition with the of the symphonic elements still being there with the synths and the keyboards. It just makes it even better. Like let's just start naming tracks. Recode. Dude, what a fucking great intro, like talking about how humanity must succeed and we shouldn't let the machines prevail, and how if you're listening to this, you are the resistance. You're listening to this, you are the resistance is just another Terminator reference from the Terminator movies, which just makes so much sense to put in a Fear Factory album. And then we got other songs like End of Line, the title track, Aggression Continuum, which is just this fucking heavy track. Then we got Manufactured Hope, which is one of my favorite Fear Factory songs, but I think I got something that tops that even more. Cognitive Dissonance. Oh my gosh. It is so awesome. It is just, I don't know what to say. Like, I think I made my decision. I think Aggression Continuum goes above Genexus. But it still won't ever top Obsolete and Demanufacture. Just because, yes, people say, oh well, Demanufacture is a generic or basic pick just because to put it at your top, just because everyone kind of puts it at their top, and this is what made Fear Factory blow up, and this is kind of their, this is their best album, blah 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 blah. Yes, I don't care. I don't care what people say. It's their best album, and nothing ain't gonna change that. But I've also seen people put Obsolete at the top of their list. So, whatever floats your boat. Different folks for different strokes. But that's my list, and that's where I'm going to put the Aggression Continuum. Is awesome, awesome, awesome. And then we got all of their songs like Fuel Injected Suicide Machine. And oh my gosh, I don't know what else to say about this album. I don't know what else to say about this band. It is just great. It is great all around. All around. What else can I say? What else can I say? Oh my gosh. It is just great. The album is just great. Aggression Continuum is great. Genexus is great. Obsolete. Demanufacture. Those 4 albums are just the pinnacle of industrial metal. Now you may be asking why I never put any Fear Factory album on my top 10 albums of all time list, because there are bands and albums that top it. Yes, those songs and the Fear Factory albums and the Fear Factory songs are good, but they don't really deserve a top 10 spot. Maybe honorable mentions or top 20, but not really deserving of like top 10 maybe. But that might, opinions might change. But they're not included in I didn't never really include them in my original list. But again, that might change. Just because these albums are so good. Genexus, Obsolete, Demanufacture. Oh my gosh. I need to, like, there is just nothing more. There is nothing more. Like, if you want peak music, you should check out at least those 4 albums. Now, you know what? Now that I'm sitting here thinking about this, maybe my opinion has changed. Maybe if I ever decided to revise my top 10 albums list, maybe like or maybe one of these albums would be on here. Because it is still really, really, really good music. What else can I say? Well, that's the Fear Factor ranking. This was a pretty interesting video. So if you like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.